What is your best fuck it? I've been a nice person my whole life, now I'm going to do something bad story. I threw a girl's phone, who bullied my friend, out of a Ferris wheel after she asked me to hold it to take a selfie. My arms are long. She said my friend couldn't be in it because she was ugly. It felt really good. Someone smashed the pumpkin I had on my front porch for Halloween. I was so mad that night I took an old purse and shit in it. I then put it on the same step my pumpkin was, then hid in my room and watched out the window. I don't know if it was the same kid that smashed my pumpkin that later tried to steal the purse, but the happiness I took from that moment of a kid reaching his hand in the purse while he was walking away to steal the money more than made up for the anger of a smashed pumpkin. Even if it wasn't the same kid who smashed your pumpkin, he still deserved what you did for stealing a purse. I followed the rules 100% that were laid out by my parents until I hit 18 and wanted to hang out with a group of friends. Thing is, there needs to be adult supervision at all times when I go over to a friend's house. I got fed up. Some of these people I've known for 4 years, and went anyway even though the hosting party's parents were not home. And nothing bad happened, all we did was play Dungeons and Dragons for 5 hours. Edit, my parents aren't bad or anything. They love, support, and are a tad overprotective with me. I am grateful every day of them, and am fortunate of having awesome parents like them. A year later, they gave me their permission to go to friends' houses without an adult present. Probably didn't hurt that I carry pepper spray when I go out, and I have cut off friends for underage drinking, so they trust me to be a good judge in someone's character. I don't fault them for the rule or being worried. If it were my kid, I'd be concerned too who they were hanging out with. This was the one instance I was the rebellious teenager. If you were 18, you were the adult supervision. After 2 years of working somewhere and getting treated like shit, I didn't get a permanent contract and called in sick on my last day, because I hated that job. I had only called in sick once before for 1 day. After that they still said I had to come to work, so I just said sure I'll come and just didn't show up. That day off felt really good. I worked somewhere, and got promoted, so I know I wasn't bad at my job, for 5 years, and was treated increasingly badly by other management, especially after I reported 2 of them for abusing staff members and HR told them I'd made the report. I booked 2 weeks holiday, drove down to the coast, and called the store manager to say I was handing in my notice. She cried and begged me not to leave her with no lower management, everyone else had already walked. Spent my notice on holiday, and that was the best holiday of my life. My elderly mother-in-law made a little wreath to put on the door of her apartment. A couple of days later some asshole completely destroyed it. She was really sad about it. We put it back together and fixed it. I added lots of pointy needles. I put it back on the door. She told me that she heard some swearing at 6:30 in the morning. It was one of her neighbor. I was a teen and found $1,000 in an ATM. This was one of those ATMs that had a place where the money would drop to. This was the early 90s, I don't think they just drop it anymore, they all retract back into the machine if you don't take it. But during this time, that technology didn't exist. I went to the bank to return the money. I was sick of this bank. I was an American expat in Singapore who needed a bank account, long boring story, but wanted to explain why a teen hated a bank. Anyway, I had to always wait in line, never enough tellers, people were pretty rude, etc. This bank sucked. After waiting for 15 minutes, with one teller and the line still 10 deep, I said to myself, fuck it, I came to return this money. I tried to be honest, but they are making it impossible for me. I went and bought a stereo. It was alright. One time I went to an ATM to get money out and found a deposit envelope half out of the machine. Figured the machine had decided to reject it sometime after the person who had deposited it had left. I wrote a note on the envelope and posted it under the bank door. Some weeks later I deposited some cash in that same machine. I was a little hesitant but didn't want the inconvenience of going to the bank during business hours. I made sure the envelope was accepted, waited a bit to ensure it didn't get ejected, then left. After a few days the deposit still hadn't shown up in my account. I took time out from work and went to the branch to complain. They said, "No problem, this machine has done this before." They told me how someone had left an ejected envelope under their door with a note on it and then immediately credited my account with my missing deposit. Paid it forward to myself. Karma. Didn't get along with an old roommate because she moved her boyfriend and dog in. She was generally very messy. He didn't pay rent and her dog was a liquid shit machine. Her dog ruined my love sack and soaked it with piss and shit. I asked her to repay me for it and have her boyfriend leave, and instead of repaying me she stole items I kept in all common rooms to spite me. Snitched to my landlord and got her evicted. Also pissed in her shampoo bottle. My ex's friend would always hit me and kick me and I couldn't hit her back, so one day at a freshman dance, she hit me with the spike of her high heels, and I grabbed it out of her hand and threw it to the far end of the cafeteria. Fuck you, Michaela. When I was a teen I had a boyfriend. He was older, I then thought it was cool, but it really was just creepy. I was super loyal to him, and he gaslighted me constantly, manipulated and lied to me. We had mutual friends and they sent me some pictures of him cheating with other girls at a party he lied about attending. I arranged a meet-up at my place. Pretended all was fine. He lived quite far away, so he traveled for hours to meet me. As soon as he arrived at my doorstep, I curtly confronted him about his lies, broke up with him and sent him on his long way back home. Took less than 5 minutes total. Never treated anyone like that before or after. It was glorious. I used to work in retail. One night a customer asked me when a jacket would be discounted. I told her that I couldn't say for sure because we weren't told when certain items would be reduced in price. She called me a dumb bitch and an idiot and asked me to put it on hold for 24 hours in case it got discounted overnight. I think it's also worth noting that she claimed to be an Instagram influencer with over 5,000 followers and she said she lose deals if she didn't get the jacket. Also she was racist toward the store's security guard, who happens to be one of the kindest people I've ever met. I put the jacket aside for her but not before doing a system search and finding out that there were only 3 left in this size in the entire country, as you may have guessed from my username in Live in New Zealand, so not a particularly big country. Fast forward 24 hours and she hasn't come to pick up the jacket. I was feeling extra petty, and had had a particularly bad day the day before, so exactly 24 hours after I put it aside for her I decided to buy it. I browsed around the store for a while before going to pay, and of course Karen was up there at the checkouts. If she had been ranting at my colleague about the jacket I would have given it to her to save another from the wrath of Karen, but she was going on about the car park and appeared to have forgotten about the jacket. Once I got to the car I went online and bought the other jacket before driving to the other side of town and buying the third and last one in the country. It was near the end of the season so chances are there weren't going to be any more. The whole thing cost more money than I would have liked, but I stopped a Karen from getting her way for once so I don't regret it. Also thank you for all the upvotes and the awards. I got bullied a lot in high school. In particular my maths class, because I'm simply weak with numbers, so I was in the lowest capability class with mostly kids who just didn't want to try because it wasn't cool. Whenever we used calculators, our saint of a teacher would get a huge box of them out and we'd go up to the front and grab one. We were supposed to put them back at the end as we were leaving, but most of them just gave their calculators to me to put back as opposed to taking 3 extra steps to do it. I've just finished doing my unofficial job as keeper of calculators and I'm grabbing my bag to leave. This guy comes back in and says, "Forgot this, put it back up, handing me his calculator. No please. Not even 5 seconds of eye contact. Just the order and assumption. Something in me broke and I picked it up and heaved it at the guy's head. It hit mid-chest. This was coupled with a firm and simple no in a raised voice. I then realize what I've done and sheepishly turn to my saint of a teacher. This man has watched this class bully me for a long time now. Watched me not respond to it. Let me sit in the back with headphones in as long as the work's done so I can try and improve my damn grade in peace. This angel of a teacher looks at me, and in one fluid motion winks, and tilts his head at the door telling me to get gone before shit erupts. He knows I don't throw things at people and probably never would again. I never did. I kept putting the calculators away at the end though. My sister is kind of evil, and one day she was really being abusive to our mom. Screaming and yelling and insulting our mother to the point of lunacy. Mom began to tear up a bit, and I didn't really like that. Then my sister says, "Oh wow, you're crying." I had a cup of coffee in my hand, and I instinctively poured it over her head. Suddenly, I was the bad guy, which was fine, because I don't really care what someone says while they're covered in coffee anyways. Waste of good coffee. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you wanna see more videos like this one.